My name's Dexter Dedora, and with my wife Kayla, we run Longhorns and Leather. So we take rough longhorns and skulls, pull the caps, polish them, and end up with a finished European mount or wall mount. We call this a block mount. We did our first set, I believe, in the fall of 2017. Started off with 3 sets before Christmas. And then since there, it's just taken off. I grew up in Monitor, Alberta, so yes, I am. That one's tough with this little venture. Between all our sales, we've sold 80 to 90 mounts. Probably about 5% of them have stayed locally in special areas. So with social media, that's been our biggest bonus with this business. Without it, this would just be a glorified little hobby. Well, it wasn't really even thought of. We did leatherwork for about 12 years. Had 2 people contact us at the same time, and they wanted us to do mounts for them. Luckily, at the time, I was talking to my boss about it, and he started showing me some pictures of a guy that he followed on Instagram down in the States, and sort of sparked some interest. I contacted him, and he got back to me answering my questions probably 6 weeks after I'd already finished my first 2 mounts. So that's sort of where it started off, and that's how we got going. No, we were sort of winging it. We had one old longhorn cow that somebody had given us years earlier, and I got her caps pulled off and just started winging it. First night I sanded on the caps. These caps, they go through 12 sands now. Before that I was only 7, I believe, but I was using emery cloth and my shop vise. Didn't wear a mask, no eye protection. It was a pretty steep learning curve off the start. Well, as far as the building process, like I said, I did leatherwork for quite a few years. My dad always did woodwork, so I had a pretty good knowledge base on how I needed to get it to this point. The social media was a struggle. I headed that up for about 6 months, and then luckily Kayla took it over, and that's been a huge benefit. She's increased our social media reach and posting pictures, telling a story, because most people sort of want to see where the product comes from and how you get it there. Consistent sales. We go through such a boom and bust, it seems, throughout the year. Last year was probably would have been our first full serious year as far as sales. But going into Christmas, like, you're kicking out 5-6 sets a month, just working your butt off, and then it seems 2 months after Christmas, everything just comes to a screeching halt, which works out pretty good because then we got to get seed in the ground and calve cows. But consistent sales and dealing with social media is probably the biggest struggle with this business. Probably, we were talking about this last night, the most satisfying moment is the majority of the people we've sold mounts to. We've sold mounts as wedding gifts. People wanted their dad's brand on mounts to remember them. In general, just the excitement the majority of our customers have when they place a custom order. It's makes a guy feel pretty good about what you're doing. Well, we just sort of jumped into it. By the time things really started rolling, we sort of got our feet under us. It definitely wasn't anything planned, sort of an accident. But now that we're rolling it, it's great. We get to design our own product, 3 months or no, it would have been about 8 months ago. Kayla came up with the idea that she wanted to put lace on a mount. And I told her that I was selling my soul to the devil if I did that. And we did that, and the mount sold in 23 minutes from posting. And after that, we've kicked out a lot more lace mounts. Just being able to be in control of, any of your own time, whether we're pulling caps or driving to pick up more skulls, it's just great to be working for yourself. It's been tough at times. Like, there's your slower times of year, and then the busier times of year, and the busier times of year when it's usually minus 25 out and the shop's at 2 degrees and you get to spend 6 hours out there as soon as you get home from work. So I can't say around Christmas that it's the best on the family life, but it's sure been neat. We've got to meet a lot of people that are now good family friends throughout sourcing skulls and mounting custom mounts for different people. So that's been fun for the kids and for Kayla and I, but it definitely does create some struggles in the busy times of year. Use the proper safety equipment. Don't cut corners on that. Waking up with the sweats in the middle of the night because you sucked in a bunch of horn dust isn't the best. That's probably the biggest thing. Is I sort of thought it was a joke off the start, and there's probably a half an inch of horn dust in my shop right now, and we actually have all the proper equipment: dust collectors, canister masks that seal all the way around your face so you can actually see by the end of the night and breathe. So the safety equipment is number one now. Well, the family I grew up in, I guess work ethic would have been number one. The drive not to give up, probably number two. And I talked to a cattleman a couple of years ago, and I asked him, if he ever went and took any courses, or what helped him to get to the point he was at, and he told me it was all luck, which I thought was a bunch of BS. But there's quite a few times when you're sanding on a cap or pulling caps, and things just work out just right. I don't know if that's skill or luck. Maybe the more you do, we've pulled 80 sets now. So maybe it's just the knowledge of the craft you're working on, not a lot of luck. Because we have had it before where straps break and there's flying objects that go 20, 30 feet in the air, but that might go back to PPE again. Maybe a guy should be wearing some of that. I don't honestly know. I guess the biggest struggle we had off the start was cash flow. You definitely want to have a good handle on that. And we dealt with a lot of cheap garbage tools. We were burning on sale sanders out from Canadian Tire like it was going out of style, but that's all we could afford at the time. Cash flow management was probably the biggest thing for us off the start. We started with very poor, limited amount of tools, and as we started making sales, we probably, until we hit 30 mounts, we actually weren't making a profit off of any of these mounts, or we were making a profit, but any profits were going back into tools and supplies. And now we have a better cash flow management strategy. With being at 80 mounts, we've pretty well bought all the good tools we need to do this. The biggest thing is social media reach with this. With the return to rural, none or majority of our mounts go to central Alberta. We've sent some to Saskatchewan, quite a few to BC, a couple to Ontario. I guess as far as this, with the reach, we had a friend that had some Australians come over and visit him, and he'd shared a lot of our posts, and they thought it was pretty neat. So they came over and they actually purchased a set and took it back with them to Australia. So when it comes down to it, with social media, we wouldn't be doing this at this scale. I'm not really a quote guy, but I was reading my questions last night, so I could do an average job maybe today. But one popped into my mind. A friend of mine once told me, he said, you make your choices and then your choices make you. And that is basically the only one I can remember. Maybe I got a poor memory, or I like that one actually stuck with me. So, well, one of the hang-ups, I guess, Kayla gets to deal with this. It used to drive me crazy, but that we're not a Mexican sweatshop when it comes to horn mounts. If you look at the detail in these mounts compared to the ones you can buy in Texas, they're spaced appropriately like the caps were on the animal. And it's actually hand-tooled leatherwork on the block. The block's hand-carved, the horns are hand-sanded. There's no varnish or clear coat on the caps. It's all sand and polish.